Lexington, Bunker Hill, and most recently, recovering from the events at the marathon. Boston is also a hub for innovation, and it boasts one of the largest and best technical institutions in the world, and one of the largest and best business schools in the world. So there is no better location than Boston to be talking about the business of innovation and the power that we can build in being resilient in the industry by working together. So John started off yesterday by talking to us about the massive changes going on in the industry. And the internet has touched all our lives, no matter where we live and what work we do. We are about to transition to the next phase of the internet that we refer to as the Internet of Everything. The first phase of the internet was all about connectivity. Started off in a university research program and then became this prevalent platform for connectivity, with email being the killer app. As connectivity became pervasive, we moved to the second phase of the internet, which was about digitizing business processes. And all of us, with Cisco and our partners, actually created this movement in the industry, and e-commerce was the killer app in the second phase of the internet. The last 5 to 7 years saw the rise of social, mobile, and cloud. And we saw digital interactions, friends online, likes, dislikes, tweets, all of this created the social internet. And we are about to see perhaps the biggest transformation in the industry in the last 2 to 3 decades, which is the pervasive IP addresses on everything in our lives, which will give rise to the Internet of Everything, which is about connecting not just things, but connecting people, process, data, and things. So what is driving this transition? I want to begin by highlighting some of the technology transitions and market transitions that are making us shift to this Internet of Everything. First transition, perhaps that is most significant, is the fact that the IT architectures in compute are shifting from a client-server model that has served us well for so many years to a mobile cloud model. In 2013, this calendar year, we expect that there'll be more mobile devices than people on Earth. There will be more mobile devices than people on planet Earth. And by 2017, we will have 1.4 mobile devices per human being. 80% of enterprises today, they say they already consume applications from the cloud. And 40% of CIOs say they don't allow cloud applications to be consumed from the cloud. So the movement to cloud and mobile is occurring, and it's real. The second transition, driven by this, is the movement of value from a web-based economy to an app-based economy. How many of you have more than 10 apps on your mobile device? Show of hands. Pretty much all of you. So in 2010, there were 10 billion apps that were downloaded. By 2013, we expect there'll be 70 billion apps that will be downloaded. So the point of Cisco's strategy is to enable all of us to capture that value from apps by making the network a platform with APIs that can provide greater affinity to applications and programmability to the infrastructure. The third big transition that we see is the movement in communications from people to people to machine and people. So we expect that by 2020, there will be 50 billion devices that will be connected. And by the way, in 1984, there were only 1,000 devices connected to the network. We reached 1 million in 1992. And in 2008, we reached 1 billion. In 2010, there were 12.5 billion devices. And by 2020, there will be 50 billion devices. So the point is, it's not just about connectivity, but the power of communication that will drive real-time decision-making both for machines and for people. With that, the value in information is moving from just data or big data to actually information driving better actions and better decisions for all of us. So actually it's no longer about data being collected and stored and databases being analyzed. It's the fact that the network has access to data in motion, and we can apply analytics at the edge to provide better visibility for decision making using smarter machines and for people to have more productive business processes. The next change that's driving the shift to the Internet of Everything, or as a result of all this, is IT spending is shifting strictly from being with the IT organizations to lines of business. And we talked about this yesterday. And whether you believe Gartner's predictions or not, they expect that by 2020, a significant part, 90% of IT spend will be influenced by a line of business, right? And so the positive way of thinking about it is every budget will be an IT budget, and it'll give us opportunity to go after that spend by creating solutions that will be relevant for businesses. By the way, that number in the year 2000 was only 20%. And 2014, we will see 35% of IT spend that will be influenced by a line of business. So, with this, the shift in services is actually moving to outcomes-based versus just a maintenance or a technology support. And IT ownership is being shared by the IT departments as well as the providers of technology. And we collectively have to focus on the business value that we can create with technology versus just being technology providers. And Bruce talked about this yesterday when he was talking about the shift to solutions. So with all of this change, how do we think about strategy? How do I think about strategy, not just for Cisco, but for our ecosystem? Well, I start with customers. I spend a lot of time, as do a lot of people in Cisco, talking to our customers about the pain points that they see. And if I were to simplify all of the customer challenges into 3 big challenges that they have, the first challenge is delivering a compelling user expectation or user experience for all of the people that they serve. And that can be their customers, that can be their employees, that in many times can be the stakeholders that participate in that business. And the user expectation is rising rapidly, driven by the consumerization or the influence of consumer devices and consumer applications within the business. The second challenge they have is the rise of cloud, not just for deploying applications quicker, but actually scaling out architectures in a much more flatter, broader architectures for the data center, as well as how services and applications get served from that infrastructure. And the third challenge is around data. And the data challenge is only going to get more complex as we see the rise of Internet of Things and the coming of Internet of Everything. So our opportunity together is to work to solve these challenges for our customers. So I've now talked about what is changing in the technology landscape, what it means to our customers. I will now talk about why we believe that Cisco and our partner ecosystem is uniquely positioned to solve this challenge and move us into the future. So let's step back a little bit and think about how the IT industry will be looking in the next couple of years. If you look at the model for the next generation IT, we believe that value will be created in 3 layers or 3 categories: infrastructure, platform, applications, with services that will be interwoven across. So to those of you that have been in the IT industry, this will look very familiar. In the old days of IT, we used to call this hardware, middleware, and software. So what is new? What is new is within each of these layers, there is a rapid change and significant change. So I'm going to start at the infrastructure layer. In the old model for IT, infrastructure was created and served by significantly siloed components. And we had category leaders in servers, storage, wireless access, cellular access, and networking. That is now becoming much more converged and unified, and Cisco actually led this transition working with all of you by initially creating unified fabric for networking. We then created unified compute, bringing compute and networking together. And more recently at Cisco Live in January, we announced unified access with the Catalyst 3850, bringing wired and wireless access together. And in mobile access, we are working on bringing heterogeneous access technologies together, combining 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE, Wi-Fi, and through an acquisition of a company called Ubiquitous based in the UK, we're adding small cell or femtocell access technologies to that portfolio. So the infrastructure layer in the new model for IT will be all about converging different infrastructure elements and unifying the architectures to drive lower cost of ownership for the customers. The platform layer is also changing. The middleware architectures of the past that were proprietary and customized for the server and the client are changing. There will be much more influence of open source in the platform layer, and I'll talk about our strategy in this space. The platform in the next generation IT has to support real-time analytics. It has to enable significant and deep programming of the infrastructure underneath to drive better affinity to the applications, enabling the applications to perform better. And by the way, in some cases, the platform has to be consumed as a service going into the cloud model. The application layer at the top is also changing. And in the next generation IT model, we will see new breeds of application that are being created cloud-based and mobile-first. Examples of these are Dropbox, Box, Evernote, Skype in some cases. Some of these applications compete with traditional customized applications that enterprises used to use. Some of them we have to integrate with existing enterprise applications to drive better value. At the same time, traditional enterprise applications are moving into a virtualized environment. SAP HANA is an example of that. And yesterday, Brute showed that the deal size actually increases almost 7x when we are able to participate in migrating these applications uniquely to a virtualized data center. And thank you for your partnership in working with us to drive that. And we will see some applications be delivered as software components in a SaaS model or a software as a service model. So within each of these layers, as you can see, there is dramatic change going on that we have to enable for our customers going forward. And services will be served up in a unique way from a platform level that will be based and measured on outcomes rather than support, as I said. So think about services and the role services will play, and Edzard will talk more about this later on in the general session. Our value proposition from Cisco is to provide a platform with APIs that you can then create and customize services for our customers. So within this, I'm going to describe to you 3 pillars of the Cisco strategy. The first pillar of our strategy is to continue to innovate and win in our foundational priorities. So for those of you that have been with us for a while, this will look very familiar to you. This is no change from our strategy for the past few years. We're going to continue to build on the foundations that we have established in the data center, in core networking, in security, mobility, video and collaboration, and technical services and advanced services. This is continuing the strategy that we have had in place. The second pillar to our strategy is to enable the network to be much more open and much more programmable. This is new to our strategy since last June when we announced Cisco One as an initiative to enable this programmability. We're continuing to deliver on that, and I'll talk a little bit more about Cisco One. And think of this as a platform or part of the platform strategy that will have 3 elements to it. And the CTOs and DEs and fellow technical community within Cisco is working hard to create this capability at the infrastructure layer, at the management, orchestration, and analytics layer, and at the service delivery layer with both southbound as well as northbound APIs so that we can migrate applications faster into our platform and into our infrastructure. The third leg to our strategy is where you all come in. The third leg to our strategy is to increase our business relevance to applications and services. So the work that we're going to do is going to require a strong third-party ecosystem. And as I mentioned, a large part of the platform is going to be open source. So we have to enable developers and APIs to write to the APIs that we will create. We need to have a strong ISV program. The second leg is going to, part of the strategy is going to migrate enterprise applications or traditional applications to our platform and our infrastructure. And the third part, in the Internet of Everything, we will have new kinds of applications, such as smart grid-based applications or smart connected industries-based applications. So that's the strategy for Cisco, and here's how the three pillars of our strategy come together. This we refer to as the unified framework. This is not an architecture. When I'm talking to engineers, anytime there is a square or a rectangle with a line attached to it, they think of it as an architecture picture. So I want to point out this is not an architecture, it's a Cisco strategic framework for how we see us and you enabling the next generation IT and the transformation to the Internet of Everything. Now, John mentioned yesterday that we are unique in the sense that we think about innovation as having 4 pillars. Build, which is all of our organic innovation that our engineering community, services community, SE community in the field drives. Buy, which is acquisitions. We are very acquisitive as a company. In the last 12 months, we closed more than 14 acquisitions, all based in the software, cloud, and recurring revenue space. Partner is a strong pillar of our innovation strategy. And integration, which is not just our own products, but actually bringing third-party solutions as we go after a broader ecosystem. So I will now talk a little bit about each of these pillars for innovation. First, I want to begin with our vision for networking. So where do we see networking transitioning into this, as we move into this Internet of Everything? We think the network of the future has to be much more automated, much more orchestrated, have greater affinity to the applications, and we will move from having command line interfaces to program the network to much more programmatic interfaces or API models. So think of the network as transitioning to where most of the compute industry had been, with a platform, with the operating system, with applications on top. We want to enable the same transition in the future with the network. That's our vision for networking. It's broader than what people call SDN. There's a lot of hype today in the industry, and it's our responsibility to together clarify and explain to customers how the network of the future must transition to deliver better value. SDN addresses only a portion of the requirements that our customers need by separating the control and the data plane together. Our vision is all about programmability, and it encompasses not just the separation, but how we actually insert network services faster, and how we can think of the network as a system made up of ASICs, hardware, software, and services. If you think about networking and why we believe that the same thing won't happen in network as happened in server virtualization, the network is actually over-provisioned most of the time. Under-provisioning and underutilization, as was the case with server virtualization, is not true for network virtualization. So simply virtualizing the network doesn't drive the benefit that our customers are looking for. What customers need is a faster way to provision the network, a quicker way to deploy applications, a simple way to manage that network and automate the network. All of that can be driven by our vision for programmability. And we refer to that as Cisco Open Network Environment, or Cisco One. There are 3 things we are driving within Cisco One. The first has to do with making the network much more programmable, and this is through APIs. Our APIs are referred to as 1PK, One Platform Kit, We already have about 40 customers in early field trials. And as Edison mentioned, we'll be working in creating programs to bring you all up to speed around 1PK. The second part of Cisco One strategy is around controllers and agents. And we have taken our controller software and contributed it into the open source consortium called Open Daylight. Many of the players in the industry are participating in Open Daylight. And so this is a way we believe actually controllers have to be much more open, and a way to create value is going to be in using that controller to program the network across all of the layers in the network. And the third part of the strategy is to create a much more scalable, scale-out architecture. We have efforts going on within our own data center group, as well as through a spin-in that we call InCMA. Within the next 6 months, you will see us make some significant announcements around all of this. So this is the progress we have made within programmability of the network. Now, security is the next big challenge, isn't it? As we move to this mobile cloud era and we bring lots of devices, and now people are talking not just about BYOD, but BYOA. When you're bringing your own device into the enterprise, you're also bringing a bunch of applications into the enterprise, and the network doesn't know what applications there are. So how does security architecture scale in the future? Security is a major priority for us this year and going forward. And when we think about security, we're thinking about creating a platform that integrates security elements and security functions so that we can have deep insights into the content, into the applications, into the device, and then enable the network to enforce policy in a different way. So how are we doing this? Our strategy involves taking our basic foundational strength in access control of firewall, and then adding to that content awareness and context awareness so that we know information about data files, where the data is located, the user. We combine all of that together and make it threat aware. The reason we believe that in the future security has to be much more of a platform approach rather than a best of breed approach that it has been until now. Until now in the industry we saw best of breed players that were good in firewall, players that were good in antivirus. That model will change rapidly in the future because as technology advances, so do threats. And we have to be able to create a platform so that we can integrate and insert new technologies into this platform as threats become more advanced. So that's our strategy within security, and the architecture that Chris Young and team are driving for us involves taking our strength in network enforced policy. So this is where the network has visibility and enabling policies so that we can embed that on all of our switching and routing platforms, virtualized appliances, software instances. So we have that capability embedded. We're then moving up the stack by integrating to that management policy capabilities. And by the way, providing APIs for all of you. So this is very different from how the industry thinks about security. Our approach is to build a security platform and create APIs so that each of you can then enforce policy through our networking based on the customers that you're serving. So this is to provide APIs in the middle part of that, and then in the cloud layer, integrating data analytics to make the platform much more threat aware. So in the data layer, we'll have visibility into the application, so we'll be aware of the threats, which will then transmit that information through the API so that you can create policy frameworks on Cisco's security platform. So we're working on this, and so stay tuned for more information and think about how this technology and platform will help our customers going forward. So just as security has to scale from endpoint to the data center has to move up to be closer to the applications. So we're taking the strength that we have created together within our unified data center strategy and transforming that to become a platform for infrastructure as a service. So as you know, our data center architecture has three main differentiated points. The first is unified fabric, and we're taking that to the next level with something we are referring to today as Unified Fabric 2.0. So as I said, we'll be making some announcements around the Cisco Live timeframe for this, which will enable us to scale the fabric out much more rapidly, integrating network functionalities so that we can program the network at a deep level all the way to the ASIC. We're taking UCS, or Unified Compute Platform, and taking that to the next level with UCS 2.0 that will have better performance and features as well. And we're taking our management capability to scale it across different components, both physical and virtual. We acquired a company called Cloudpia that has capabilities for management of storage. And we will down the line integrate that with UCS Manager and be able to scale that across different infrastructure elements. So data center, we will continue to innovate. We'll move that up to become the platform for infrastructure as a service. So now when I talk about platform, it will be remiss of me not to mention OpenStack, because I teed it up by saying the platform is going to have much more open source capabilities in the future. So OpenStack is gaining a huge amount of momentum in the industry as an open source way to deploy cloud operating system. And I'm just curious, how many of your customers or how many of you are involved or hear about OpenStack coming up in your conversation? Show of hands? So a few of you today. So next year, I bet that number will be going up quite a bit. Now, why is OpenStack so interesting for our customers? OpenStack is a consortium of developers and cloud technologies that are all creating an open source platform, which involves elements of everything in the data center: compute, storage, and network. Cisco is leading the way in networking. We have the vice chair position in OpenStack, and at the same time, we are taking that open source code and creating distribution packages that we will be deploying on UCS B series and C series products so that we can configure OpenStack elements within our server platform and operationalize OpenStack uniquely on our server. We're working with many leaders in the industry as partners. Red Hat, for example, is a great partner of ours because they bring a lot of strength in open source distribution. We are working with them as a technology partner in OpenStack. So OpenStack will become and continue to become much more important as we go towards the infrastructure as a service model in the future. So we talked about acquisitions, and I wanted to show you how strategically they fit into the framework that I mentioned as our strategy. So here's a view of the 14 acquisitions we have closed to date. We have one more that we've announced, not yet closed, in our services space. We hope to close that soon. And as you can see from this picture, you can kind of sense where we are going as a company. We are moving more from not just leadership in the infrastructure, but a way to enable that leadership to continue in the platform layer and drive more relevancy into the application layer. We'll continue to look for great innovation, as buying is a big part of our innovation strategy. The third pillar to our innovation strategy is all of you. Partnering is a big part of our strategy, and as opposed to many of our peers in the industry, we don't believe in having vertical stacks that are closed and proprietary. Our strategy is much more horizontal because the network is horizontal. We believe in open source platforms and be able to scale that faster. And we think that's the only way we will be able to bring creative innovation to the market with the Internet of Everything. However, we feel the partner ecosystem also changes with the strategy that we are putting together. And I thought Edison did a great job yesterday. I was tweeting away madly as he was talking about the role of partners in the future and the role of new business models in the future. That's absolutely true. We will have to depend on you for a lot of new capabilities as you expand capabilities, and we're looking forward to working together with you, whether it's in the developer space or in creating solutions or taking advantage of the APIs to rapidly move applications, even traditional applications, to this virtualized environment of the future. So, to summarize, there are massive changes driven by technology trends as well as market transitions that will shape the next generation IT to be very different than the IT industry of the past. Our customers today, as they face future, are asking us to help them solve some big challenges. CIOs are looking for a way to simplify all of this complexity. We believe by bringing together our architectures in a unified framework, we will set up the model for the next generation IT and deliver to our customers simplicity, flexibility, and the agility that they are looking for from us. So by leveraging the depth of our expertise and the breadth of our capabilities in engineering, in sales, and in services, and our ability as the only company in the world that can excel at build, buy, partner, and integrate, we invite all of you to join us in this exciting journey towards the Internet of Everything. We firmly believe, John, that we will become the #1 IT company in the very near future. It's very exciting for me as I think about technology and strategy to really look at the capabilities that we have, moving up the stack to deliver a platform for the Internet of Everything. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I'll continue this conversation on Twitter with all of you. It is now my pleasure to invite